So, what if I told you that the biggest mistakes the smartest, most highly trained experts make have absolutely nothing to do with their actual expertise? Today, we're going to dive into some really powerful business lessons by looking at a pretty surprising case study: doctors. We're breaking down the 7 most common business blunders they make, and you'll see how these lessons apply to pretty much any professional out there.
All right, let me ask you something. When you picture a doctor running their own medical practice, what do you think is their biggest possible screw up? A wrong diagnosis, maybe? A mistake during a procedure?
Well, the surprising answer is it has nothing to do with medicine. Nope. The most costly errors, the ones that can genuinely sink an entire practice, are all business mistakes. And why are these mistakes so incredibly costly? Because they don't just cost you money, they cost you time. And think about that for a second. You can always make more money, right? But you can never, ever get back lost time. That makes time infinitely more valuable. And these business mistakes, well, they're massive time thieves. So this brings us to the very first big mistake, what we're calling the business blind spot. This is all about the fundamental mindset shift that every expert needs to make, but, so often just doesn't.
A lot of professionals, especially in fields where they're helping people, they feel kind of weird about thinking of their work as a business. It feels wrong somehow. But just look at this quote from Mother Teresa. She got it. She knew that even a mission rooted in pure charity has to be run like an efficient, effective business to make the biggest possible impact. The lesson here is so clear. Treating what you do like a business doesn't make you greedy. It makes you effective. And what's the first rule of any business? You have to know your numbers. I mean, these metrics might look super basic: revenue, costs, how many new patients you have, but you would be shocked at how many people just ignore them. And that last one, knowing exactly where your new clients are coming from, that's absolutely critical. Without tracking this stuff, you're just flying blind. Okay, so once you've actually got that business mindset on lock, the next big hurdle is getting people in the door. And this brings us to a whole cluster of common mistakes all about attracting clients, from how you even learn to market in the first place, to where you find your customers, and exactly who you're trying to target. This is where we run into our second big mistake, and it's a huge one: falling into the trap of the tribal method. Here's how it works. Everyone in a particular field just copies each other. Generation 1 teaches Generation 2 their way of doing things, who then teaches Generation 3, maybe with one tiny little tweak. And that is exactly why so many businesses in the same industry look, feel, and sound exactly the same. So, how do you break out of that cycle? Well, with a pretty radical approach. You find out what the majority of your competitors are doing, and then you do the exact opposite. Real breakthroughs, the big game-changing ideas, they rarely come from inside your own field. They come from applying lessons from totally unrelated industries. Mistake number 3 is relying on a single source for new business. You ask most people, they say they get clients from word of mouth, which is great, but it's like having just one single water pipe trying to fill a giant tank. What happens if that pipe gets clogged or just runs dry? Your whole business is in trouble. The solution? You have to build multiple pipelines. The recommendation is to have at least 10 different sources bringing new clients your way. That way, if one or two slow down, who cares? The others keep your business stable, growing, and it gives you some incredible peace of mind. And that leads us right into the fourth mistake in this area: trying to attract everybody. Here's the thing. When you're a generalist for everyone, you're a specialist for no one. By defining your ideal client, the people you absolutely love working with and do your best work for, you can focus your energy, work less, and often earn way more. All right, once you've got your ideal client figured out, the next big question is, what do you charge them? This brings us to mistake number 5, failing to properly value your own expertise. So, seriously, how do most professionals decide what they're going to charge? What's the go-to method? It's almost always the same. They look at what their competitors are charging, they figure out the average, and then they price themselves just a little bit lower so they can be competitive. This is a massive trap. It completely anchors your price to what's average, not to the incredible value you actually provide. The goal should be to charge a fee based on the value and the outcome you deliver. And now, here's the part that sounds completely backward, but it's true. When experts confidently raise their fees, they often find that their number of clients actually increases. Why? It's psychology. Higher prices signal higher value. People just value things more when they pay more for them, and they take the advice way more seriously. But pricing based on value brings up a really key question. What are clients really paying for? And this is where we find mistake number 6, believing that the technical service is the only thing that matters. The truth is, clients often don't even understand the technical stuff. They judge the value based on the entire experience, how your staff treated them, if they felt listened to, if they were shown respect. This is summed up perfectly by this great saying, little hinges swing big doors. The big door is your core service, sure, but it swings on all those tiny little hinges of the client experience. Those seemingly minor details, that's what creates massive perceived value. Now, all these amazing ideas, knowing your value, focusing on the experience, they're pretty useless if nobody knows you exist. And that brings us to our 7th and final mistake, having the wrong marketing mindset. For a lot of people, marketing is kind of a dirty word. They think it's unethical or sleazy or somehow beneath them. But there is a much, much more powerful way to think about this. Marketing isn't bragging. It's the vehicle that allows you to help people you could otherwise never ever reach. It's an ethical obligation to let the people who need you know that you can help them. So we'll leave you with this final question. After seeing all these common mistakes, what is the tribal method, that common wisdom in your own field that might be holding you back? Because answering that question, well, that could be the very first step to your next huge breakthrough.